Social media is a great tool for marketing, especially for small businesses, because it usually is a pretty low-cost tool to expand your reach, increase your awareness, and really get your brand out there in front of multiple audiences and hopefully your key audience. It's also a great way to help identify your target market and get some great insights and analytics to help you in other areas of marketing your business. Identifying the best social media platform for your business can be pretty easy once you identify who your target audience is or who your target audiences are. It's important to figure out what platforms they're on and go to those platforms. For example, if you are looking to target a younger audience, you might find them on TikTok or Snapchat or one of those types of platforms. But if you are sending out a lot of information, a lot of links, want to set up a lot of events, Facebook could be a really good platform for that. It also depends on how much information and analytics you want to get from these platforms and how deep you want to dive into them. If you want to schedule things, that's also important to note which platforms that you want to be on. Other platforms to consider, Twitter. I work with clients that use Twitter when they want to send out real-time updates, little tidbits of information. If you're at an event and you want to keep people posted about what's going on, you can send out little clips of information about what's happening. Or with LinkedIn, it has a lot of business-to-business or networking opportunities. So that could be a good platform if that's something that you're interested in scaling up to do some wholesale or connecting with other businesses that have a similar mission or industry as you. Thinking about Instagram, I like to consider Instagram as a great opportunity to reach an audience that wants to look at pictures or searches through hashtags, and that would be a great opportunity, I think, for a lot of food-based businesses. You have beautiful things to take photos of, especially in the farmers market world. I think everyone should use Instagram. We can talk about all of these different platforms and opportunities to join all these different platforms and be on all these different platforms, but what it all boils down to is being consistent and what you have the capability of doing in the mix of also doing all of the other things as a small business owner. And so what I like to recommend is committing to 2 platforms that you can do really well and be consistent on. Maybe 3, but I would stick with 2, at least until you can really dive in and get a good handle on it. Recent studies show that Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are still the top performing platforms, so those are some things to consider. And rather than maybe branch out and try a whole new platform, especially if you're still trying to figure out who your audience is and where they're receiving information, perhaps consider trying a new component of a platform that you're already on, such as stories and reels on Instagram or stories on Facebook, or using YouTube more often to post videos, tutorials, how-tos, behind the scenes, things like that. The entire point of a successful social media strategy is to find platforms where you have a receptive audience, the audience that's going to buy from you, follow you, and be engaged with the posts that you're putting out there. And so it's good to dive in and really get to know who these people are and where they're at and push out content that they'll be receptive of. And so really think about who your audience is. What type of people are your audience? Where do they receive their information? How do they receive their information? What are their interests? Where do they get their news? Where do they shop? What kind of foods do they like? How often do they come to the farmers market? Understanding those types of information will then help you put the right information and content and media out on your social media platforms. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the video, but think about the difference between audience on Facebook versus audience on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, or even other digital platforms like Google. I think about a Google My Business profile, which is really a catch-all. You're not quite sure who's going to come because anybody could be Googling to find your business. And so you want to really put just a great description of who you are, some great photos, and really great contact information on there. Whereas on Facebook, you might be you might change that description just a little bit to cater to the audience that follows you on Facebook, and then tweak that just a little bit on Instagram to, appease the audience that follows you on Instagram. And if you are on TikTok, well, that's a whole other ballgame there. So considering who your audience is and where they're at, really get to know them. And one nice thing about, being in the business that you are is that you have the opportunity for some face-to-face contact and getting to know who your audience is, learning more about them, and then catering your information and your content to meet them where they're at on social media. So to help get you started with this, let's take a look at the Digital Existence Checklist. Use this checklist as a template to go through all of your digital platforms and dive into your brand identity to come up with a strategy. First, think about all the different places you can have a profile for your food business. Note the platform in the first column. Then, note your identity on that platform in the second column. Finally, in the third column, note your strategy on that platform. I encourage you to think about how you can position yourself differently across platforms in a way that best meets the needs of your audience on each platform. For example, your audience on Facebook may be different from your audience on Instagram. So think about how you can adjust your identity but still stay true to your brand and focus on your strategy to best target the intended audience on that platform. Now that we're working on understanding what platforms to be on and who are on each platform, let's talk about some important terms that will help you understand how well you're performing on each platform. Let's review some important terms. Engagement. That's the number of likes, shares, comments, and clicks. Reach. That's the number of unique users who have seen your post. Impressions. Those are the number of times a post has been displayed. Your goal should be to encourage engagement, learn about your followers, and then use all of this to grow your business. Lastly, don't forget that what you deliver through social media, along with other digital and in-person efforts, are all part of your customer's brand experience. And these are all the ways you will gain your new customers and break into new audiences.